With the 6th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets should select Donovan Clingan. Or not. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about it in this episode. Hello, if you're new around here, my name is Sam Dracula. I'm a Hornets fan, and we're going through it right now. All right, another bad year, and it continues. All right, another weird offseason for the Hornets. Every few days or so, I don't have a strict schedule on this, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. But I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on all these guys, right? I'm not going to do an Alex Sarr. I made a video on Castle already. This is about Clingan. We're keeping it UConn, and then we'll move on from there. But I'll be making videos on all these dudes and their potential fit with the Hornets. And then once I'm done with talking about the guys I want the Hornets to draft from, open to them drafting, I'm going to talk about guys I don't want them to draft, like Ron Holland, for instance. But more on that later. This is about Clingan. And initial reaction to it is like, why would the Hornets draft a center? Because they have two centers. They spent the 15th overall pick 2 years ago on Mark Williams. And they got Nick Richards, who signed an extension a year or so ago. Why would they need another center? Well, I'll tell you why they need another center. Another center is not the right wording, I would say. Probably a different center. It's probably a better way of saying it. Because somebody has to go. You select Clingan with the 6th pick. You cannot bring back Williams and Richards. That creates a spacing nightmare. First off, you're not going to have 3 centers in the rotation unless one of them can shoot. And all these guys are true centers, so there's very little flexibility there. At least with Alex Sarr, for instance, he could play the 4 theoretically and defend 4s. It offers another bit of a different dynamic than a true strict center has, which Clingan brings, which what Mark Williams is and what Nick Richards is. So let's talk about what we got first, okay? Before we talk about Clingan the prospect, let's talk about the landscape of the 5 spot with the Hornets. The center spot in Charlotte is problematic to say the least, okay? There's talent there, obviously, right? This guy, Mark Williams, is super talented. The problem is we don't know what he is. We don't know who he is as a player yet. He's going into year 3, and he hasn't played 82 games yet. As far as NBA service time, he's still a rookie. We haven't seen enough Mark Williams to say definitively this is the center of the future, because no one in good conscience can say that. We haven't seen it. Not often enough, and certainly not long enough, right? 19 games played last season, 62 overall. Horrible. Now, maybe I'm gonna throw this caveat on there. The clock's ticking on him as well, right? 3rd year of his rookie deal coming up this year, and then next year is the last year of the rookie deal. We don't know what he is yet, so he's playing for a second contract. He needs to show he can stay healthy and that he's a capable, real NBA center. Mark Williams is 22 years old and has a bad back already. Now, we're all assuming the best. I'm assuming the best, that he's going to have a 100% recovery, be ready to go when training camp starts and preseason, all that begins. And all the stuff, the nastiness from last year is over and done with. That's the hope. That's the wish. I'm here for that. I'm rooting for Mark Williams. But this new front office, ownership, and coaching staff have zero loyalty to this man, right? He's not their pick. That's a Kupchak pick. Kupchak chose him over Duren. There's no need to prove anybody right from that draft class, right? So if they do take Clingan, Mark Williams, as a guy who's on a rookie deal already with great size and potential, could be a piece they look to move. If Mark's healthy, he's way more valuable than Nick Richards, right? But the injury is a tough one. And then you throw in Clingan coming off a major foot injury. That's also problematic. Having 2 7-footers, one with a bad back and one with bad feet, is an issue. For guys who aren't even like 25 years old yet, having these injuries already is a big issue. So shout out to Nick for staying healthy, though. Shout out to Nick. Avoiding the back and feet issues, the big man curses. When you're looking at the centers, okay? Just looking at the centers from what we've seen. Mark Williams missed 60-plus games. Nick Richards started in his place. And I like Nick for what he brings. I think he's a very good backup center. Statistically speaking, he was one of the worst starting centers in the NBA when you look at his plus minus. It's an issue, right? He's not a guy you want to be starting for you for an extended period of time. Richard's going to be 27 in November. And so he's pretty much as good as he'll ever be, right? He has his flaws. They'll probably remain his flaws, but what he brings, defensive presence, rebounding, right? The alley-oops, those are all valuable pieces. But when you're looking at projecting the long-term future of the team, this team is years away from doing anything significant. And Nick Richards is kind of wasted here because he's not going to grow with this team. He's going to be 30 years old by the time this team is competitive, right? There's an opportunity to draft Clingan, move from Richards, and hope that Williams gets healthy again and have those guys battle out to get starting center minutes. In the Castle video, I mentioned some stats. I'm going to talk about them again because the Hornets have big areas of need on both ends of the floor, right? Terrible on both ends. 28th in offense and 29th in defense. They were the worst rebounding team in the NBA. Bottom of the league. 30th, dead last in rebounding per game. The Charlotte Hornets were. Not having Mark Williams is a big piece of that. All right, I don't want to ignore that. Okay, but I'm not too confident he'd make it much better. All right, I'm gonna show you his numbers in a second. Rebounding is so obviously we all know how important rebounding is. Like I'm not breaking news here in that regard. But when you have this Hornets team that shot so terribly, there's so many opportunities for rebounds playing for this Hornets team that no one took advantage of it. The Hornets were the 26th worst shooting team in the NBA and dead last in rebounding. You know how hard that is? There's so many opportunities for rebounds off these missed shots, and you're losing these 50-50s or not fighting hard enough for 50-50s. Probably the bigger problem. But again, we need dogs. The Hornets need dogs. Dogs. I'm not here to slam any players, truly. Like, generally, I want my team to be good, okay? I'm rooting for the players to play well, and I'm rooting for wins. And I want these guys playing to the best abilities and not to disappear. And Mark Williams, when he played, before he got hurt, disappeared. He had some incredible performances on both ends and couldn't string multiple games together on that form. He's a young player. At the time, second year in the league, you know, really had an abbreviated rookie year, spending a lot of time in Greensboro, where he's still figuring it out. There's no reason that he can't have it all figured out when year 3 starts, and I'm hoping that's the case. Mark's first 16 games this season, I'm not including the Nets game and afterwards because that's where he got hurt. All right. As far as we know, the games, he played 16 fully healthy games for the Hornets last year. In those games, he was 13.4 points per game. He was 10.2 rebounds per game, 6 defensive rebounds, 4.2 offensive rebounds, 0.9 blocks, 0.9 steals per game, right? 2.5 personal fouls per game, which is actually pretty impressive given his size. 67% from the floor, obviously all twos. He's not shooting any threes, not stretching the floor yet. Maybe one day, but that's a long way off, right? But when you just look at his performances game to game, right? Just on the glass alone, 15 boards. Got in foul trouble, only got 3 boards, 7 boards, 6, 7, 10, 7, 24 rebounds, 4. Imagine following up a 24 rebound game with a 4 rebound performance is crazy. 7, 16, 8, 16, 15, 6, 12. Riding a roller coaster with this man who's 7 feet, 9'9" standing reach. Mark Williams, we need the dog to come out of Mark Williams and be the dominant post presence that every real team kind of has. You know, I think Mark has a ton of potential. And I'm looking forward to year 3 of Mark Williams. Truly. I can't say with confidence he's that building block we need right now. Nick Richards was one of the worst starting centers in the NBA last year. Like not even close. I'm going to show you. Here's a list of NBA centers that have played at least 50 games or more last season. Ranked by plus minus. Jokic, Porzingis, Horford, Hartenstein, right? The good teams, good players, right? Good teams on good players, right? This is the best to worst. Nick Richards, bottom of the list. Let me zoom out. Just so you can see it. Ayton, better. Collins, better. Wiseman, better. That's where we're at. With all due respect to Marquise Bolden, the Hornets have 2 centers, and one of them is unproven, coming off a major back injury, and has been inconsistent in the time we've seen him on the floor. And the other one is not starting center quality and about to be 27 years old and pretty limited when you look at his total game. If there's an opportunity to add a prospect like Clingan, regardless of the position, but of the quality, you got to do it, even though he has foot problems or had a foot problem. That's enough about Mark and Nick. Let's talk about Donovan. At the combine without shoes, Clingan measured out at 7'2", or just under 7'2", 282 pounds with a 7'6", 7'7" wingspan. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. Like, even the standing reach was 9'7". Mark Williams was 9'9". Like, Mark Williams at the combine measured 9'9". And honestly, like, my favorite thing when you talk about culture fit or culture lifters, Clingan will bring it. Back-to-back champion. That's not nothing. That's not nothing. For a team and franchise that hasn't seen a lot of winning or have guys that have done a lot of winning, bringing that into the culture should be considered heavily. So what's the likelihood of Clingan falling to Charlotte? Like, he's not going one. Wizards could take him. Like, they need a center. Rockets don't need a center. Spurs definitely don't need a center. Pistons have Duran. They're good. Charlotte, you know what I mean? It's in play. Like, Clingan is mocked here in the consensus mock draft and the comment picks. You know, he's there. He's in the sweet spot. I would go Castle from what I've seen so far doing these videos, but Clingan's chilling, man. He's chilling right there. Operating in the post, Clingan seems like a much better offensive player in that regard. Like, Mark can get a bucket. He is a bucket when he's right near the rim. And honestly, like, for whatever reason, when he was out there, like the guard play couldn't get him the ball in the post. It was the most frustrating thing from last season. Well, one of the most frustrating things from last season when people were actually healthy, couldn't get in the ball. Made no sense. And then they were trying to force it to Nick Richards. It was crazy. But anyway, Clingan is a good post operator offensively and defensively. Probably better than Mark Williams right now, and definitely Nick Richards right now. The difference in college and pros is vast, right? It's hard to find that perfect link there, right? Mark Williams, for instance, right, was like 2.8 blocks a game. And in his rookie year, he couldn't crack 2 a game, right? And then same thing last year, right? In his limited time last year, you can't always draw that direct line for block shots. You can see the potential there with his size and length, right? And Clingan, hopefully, the hope is if you draft him, he comes ready to go in that regard. The shot blocking potential on Clingan is very similar to what the promise, the potential in Mark Williams. So either pairing those two together in a rotation, not on the floor at the same time, but switching off, subbing out for one another. I do like that because it could be like the Hornets could have a situation where they always have a big ass shot blocker post presence on the floor at all times, right? They can go back and forth with Clingan and Williams with both guys clicking, right? That is a path. And moving on from Nick Richards, who I think has trade value. He's under contract. It's a very cheap contract that they can flip for help elsewhere. Nick Richards is owed $5 million this season and $5 million next season. If OKC traded for Nick Richards, he would help them out tremendously, right? Like, Nick has real value in the NBA. For the Hornets, though, specifically, it doesn't make sense if you're going to go with Clingan at the 6th spot. Clingan's a good passer, right? Having a big that can move the ball around, especially from the post, is always valuable with the shooting the Hornets should be able to offer when everyone's back and healthy. Yeah. What scares me beyond the foot injury history is his free throws. Like, I get Mason Plumlee flashbacks looking at his free throw percentages. Freshman year, 52%. Sophomore year, 58%. That's not good. That's your liability. You can't play crunch time if you can't hit your free throws. Mark Williams, though, can hit his free throws. Nick Richards can hit his free throws. So that's a plus. Another fear about Clingan for me is his lack of athleticism. If he's drawn out to the perimeter in a switching situation, he's going to get cooked, like fully cooked. And whatever other front court guys out there with him, whether it's Miles Bridges or whoever, needs to cover his back because he can be put on an island out there in the NBA level. That's going to be like Mason Plumlee level of tragedy when he's out on the perimeter. But all that being said, the rebounding, the post play, the defense, right? Like check, and check, right? These are things the Hornets need in a big way, in a massive way. And I think he'll walk in and be the starter day one. Like, yeah, he's capable of that. And having two guys, hopefully him and Mark Williams, as capable starters is a good place to be and an upgrade over having one capable starter and one good backup. So at this stage, through 2 videos, I'm Castle over Clingan at this point in that order. I don't know what guy I'll do a video on next, but I'm still would prefer Castle at this stage. I know, since I made that video, Castle, I saw an interview that he was not going to work out for teams who already have a point guard, which is crazy because everyone basically has a point guard, outside of Washington. So that's weird. Something to monitor if he works out for Charlotte or not. But let me know who you want with a 6th pick in the comments below. What do you think of Clingan as a prospect and fit here in Charlotte? Would you prefer to keep Williams and Nick Richards over bringing in Clingan, or some combination of two of them, one of them and none of them? I don't know. Let me know down below. But I've been Sam. You've been great. Peace.